Thing typed in on that, man. You're getting pretty darn good at this stuff. Yeah, he's here. So yeah, we're gonna have. Hopefully, we're gonna have Eddie George. We haven't had him on in a while on all this stuff. So hopefully, we'll be hooking up. Maybe we'll have Eddie George on the phone here on that. You can move that if you want. That was my. I'm negligent. I haven't finished building the permanent stand for that. That's a good reminder, so that don't happen. So you get dependent on the Okie engineered stuff, and you don't do what you're supposed to do. So we'll be up here on Facebook Live here pretty quick, and then we'll get Eddie George on live. Stephanie will join us later. After the bottom of the hour, we'll have Cliff Cummings, and we'll discuss all the news, views, and everything interesting happening in the news today on that. So stay tuned for the best action-packed hour of entertainment in the world coming up. I thought you were done typing. You'd be hitting the jingle palette. You're typing like me, making mistakes, I see. See, that'll teach you to have me type something in. See, now that virus is spreading over. The fouling up the typing is spreading to you now. It's a good thing nobody watches on YouTube, or hardly anybody watches on YouTube. There's that funky slide guitar music that comes on every day, Monday. Well, not every day, Monday live. And let me get my tongue untwisted. Every Monday through Friday live at 5 on Facebook Live and YouTube. On that, we got a jam-packed show. On that, Stephanie will join us here in a bit. We'll have Eddie George. We're going to see if we can get Eddie George of Hemet News. We haven't had him on for a while with all the stuff that's going on, so we'll get an update from him. Cliff Cummings will be with us at the bottom of the hour on that to discuss. Look, not like there's nothing, a lot of news and stuff that's going on across the board on this stuff. So, man, we're doing it. So I think we are going to hook up here after a far too long absence on the show of that, just because we haven't been able to hook up our schedules like we normally do. But we have that crazy guy with the lazy eye. He runs Hemet News along with Lori and Alex and John and all the crew over there at Hemet News that do an absolute fabulous job of not only covering the news of Hemet, but everything else that's going on. So, Eddie George, welcome to Newswire Daily with Roy.
Hey, what's up, Roy? You about missed me again.
Yes, we were real dicey on getting you on today. So explain why you almost didn't make it today.
Well, I was actually just getting ready to hit that live button, go live on this accident. We're over here on Stetson and Gilbert. We got a 3-vehicle accident with one vehicle rolled over and people being transported to the hospital. We just got done filming it, and I was just getting ready to broadcast it live. And then Jesse called. So you got
of that on that. Me. Well, no, I mean, not that we want to return to that, but it seems like, and just from the overall stuff, I mean, I'm just noticing a lot of people are saying, "Heck with this COVID stuff." Da 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 da. You know, I'm just living my life
COVID?
Normally. Yeah.
Yeah, what COVID?
Yeah.
Since all this stuff else is going on with this protest, everybody forgot about COVID, you know?
Yeah, it's quickly how that dropped. Yeah, give me, because I haven't been following too much. I saw some of your postings on Hemet News, but what's your just general sense of what's been the interaction between protesters, police, and everything else in the Hemet area?
Well, I don't know if you've seen the live stream that we did when Hemet was underneath attack, but everybody's been wanting to post, their protest on our Hemet News page. And after since Sunday, we kind of tried to refuse to let any posts go through because everybody said, well, it's a friendly protest. Of course, all protests are going to start out friendly until these guys, these hijackers that, they don't care about any lives matter. All they care about is destruction, destroying, and looting and stealing. And they actually target large pages like ours to find out where protests are at. And these guys are hired, they get paid $25 an hour to $200 a night to actually go to these locations and blend with these protests. And then one person is the key man to activate the riot. When they do, it's on like Donkey Kong. Destruction happened. People got hurt. Cops, were rocks were thrown at them. Just the whole Hemet was just destroyed that night. And so people just started, the next day, we're going to have a protest tomorrow. And I'm like, well, you're not going to advertise it on my page. And they get mad, you're racist because you're not going to support us. No, I do support the Black Lives Movement. I do support, that judge or justice should be served. We've got bad cops, we've got good cops. And just like people say, not all cops are bad. Why target everybody for something that these cops haven't even done, And, it's just like some people, I try to tell people, all lives matter. We've got bad white people, we've got bad, people in all races, all black people. But does that mean all black people are bad? No. It's just like the cops. Not all cops are bad. You can't judge everybody just because one or two or three people do something wrong out of that particular environment, And people actually got mad because we did not post their protest, even though it was friendly. And luckily we didn't. It kind of helped the PD. Even San Jacinto PD, wrote me a message and text and told me, you guys not posting and allowing those posts saved us, So kind of made me feel good, that we did help out. And I'm kind of glad I used my head besides a hat rack, And it's just not my group, it's other groups. Will Whalen with Hemet Valley Incidents, they made the same decision not to allow the post because, it's like people are like, well, you wouldn't allow our post, we just want a friendly protest. Okay, well, so did the people over there at the mall. They wanted a friendly protest, and look what happened, And I'm trying to protect not just the police, but I'm also trying to protect the protesters out there from being hijacked, and it's a mess. I just, why can't we all just get along, And a lot of the people, one guy hit me up. He actually ran up on me at a gas station while I was getting gas, and he was like, I don't appreciate you not letting me post my protest. And I'm like, you must be Tyrone. He's like, yeah. I'm like, well, yeah, I'm sorry I didn't allow your protest. I says, I do support your protest, but I said, there's one thing I don't support, and that's what's written on the bottom of your shirt, a BLM, and it says FUCC, the police. And I was like, you can't say that to all the cops just because there's dirty cops out there that's not even in our town, but yet you're targeting all cops. I said, it's just like, I could say F all you blacks, but I can't do that, and I won't do that because why? Not all blacks are bad. You've got bad apples in every race. So, therefore, that's not right. And he's like, 9 out of 10 cops are bad. I'm like, well, I like to see where you get those numbers from because I would probably say in Hemet maybe 1 out of 10 cops are bad. If that, I mean, Captain Brock is really great on keeping the guys, on their toes. He don't put up with, racist stuff like this. Mainly most of our police out here, they act like they're colorblind. They don't target you because of your color. They target you because of your crime that you're doing. And if you want to play victim, well, then don't resist arrest, and violence won't happen. These guys are going to have to do what they got to do to take people down. But, what happened with George, that was kind of out of line. And I would say all three of those officers need to get the max, that those are what I call pigs. You got good cops and you got bad cops, and the bad ones is what I call pigs. Those guys should have been put on the street and let street justice took over them. You shouldn't do that to any person, no matter what race they are. That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
That's why I love having you on the show. I mean, exactly why I haven't put much or hardly any of the protests on. I think as you see that, the dominant media puts that on, and then that becomes the narrative. The minority of the opinion
Right.
starts running everything, and that's very dangerous, and especially as you've seen this situation and this stuff. And it's been always my contention is, we're never going to refer to this unless we start referring to everybody as one race. And where you need to
Right.
start eliminating all this stuff, we are all in this together. When we start with that, but if we're going to classify Black Lives Matter, and whether they mean it or not sends a signal to other people that their lives don't or less of that. Now,
Thank you.
I think most of us, there's always going to be bad people, whether it's 1/10 or 1% or 2%. There's always going to be bad, evil people in the world. There's going to be racists that are in there, and there's going to be people that commit crimes and do everything else. That's why we have police departments and everything else, because things go haywire. And again, we have to get back to the point of dealing with reality. It's kind of like the COVID deal and the whole thing. Like, well, poof, gone of that. The whole thing, and now most of the evidence coming back, we've damaged our economy over really nothing, or that. There's going to be a lot of statistics and analysis of that we're doing. But now to try and double down on stupid with this whole thing going on, with the protests and the looting and the blocking of streets and stuff like that, I support anybody's First Amendment rights to freedom of assemble, redress a grievance with your government, but that does not give you the right to shut down streets, put public safety in danger, or call cops or anybody else. You calling cops like that, what difference is that? That could be determined as a form of racism, if you want to say that. I mean, how do you want to define it?
Another thing too, Roy, that I look at is, what about these truck drivers out here that got snatched out of their trucks and beat, half to death and everything? What did that truck driver do to you? Did that truck driver have anything to do with George Floyd? No. So, I mean, why people in the United States, being punished for something that some stupid cop did that they didn't do? What did these business owners do to you? What do these business owners have to do with the George Floyd incident? Why are they being destroyed? Why is the cop being killed? That was help protecting that pawn shop. What did he do? Did he go out there and strangle the guy? No, but he had to give up his life because of somebody else. And people are judging everybody and punishing everybody for what somebody else did in another state that even has nothing to do with us. What point are you trying to prove? What good is it doing to destroy your city? What good is it to do to, injure other people that had nothing to do with it? Innocent people just driving through and either get killed, beat up, their car smashed, or whatever. It's nonsense. It's stupid. And folks, I'm not racist. I'm anti-stupid, and that's what people are being stupid.
You're exactly right. I mean, there is no justification, no matter, and no matter what the grave situation that George Floyd suffered and all that. And, our criminal justice system, and that's why we have these processes in to take care of that. And yes, we do. Wherever there's anything like this going on, if there's bad cops, we need to weed them out. The cops are probably, in most cases, the first ones that want to do that. I mean,
right. And they're hollering justice or no peace. Okay, well, folks, we gave you justice. The cops have been charged. What else do you want?
Yes, it's absolutely incredulous of what's going on this stuff. Again, like you say, I mean, you said it very succinctly. You're anti-stupid. One, no matter how despicable one act may be, that does not justify doing despicable acts to others, like you said, that have nothing to do with this, or maybe even probably in the majority cases, are on your side of that per se, of the whole deal. But to try and move this and conquer the divide, or like that ding dong broad up there, this head of the city council of Minneapolis wants to abolish the police departments and all this other stuff. Which I say, okay, if we're going to do that, then let's deputize all 330 million, because if you're going to abolish a police department, I want to be able to carry a firearm wherever I'm going to defend myself.
Right. And I got a guy here right now. I want to give him a shout out on your radio show. Ian J. Reincarnated. He said this is definitely justification for the looting. You know, that's not justification for looting, you know, going out and breaking in people's businesses and stuff. That's no justification for that. And then he says, charges? Well, imagine if they get released. Well, if they get released and they don't get no charges, well, then I'd say, EMJ, that they need to take these daggum officers out in the street and let you guys handle street justice on them and get your justification, because I think that's what they deserve on that. But not everybody else. You know, these people, these innocent people, they don't deserve all this. You know, why, you know, make everybody else suffer for what those three idiots did, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing parallels so much with the COVID situation. You know, the fear mongering and playing people to death on this, scaring them to death over something that that was going to happen anyway, and there was not much you're doing. If this thing turns out to be neutral, which I think we're going to bring some more evidence in on that, what they've done. So let's just say the amount of lives lost, people that didn't get health care stuff, were equal to the amount of lives lost that died of COVID-19. So you called that a neutral. So what was the justification for shutting down the economy and practically starving us all to death on this stuff for doing it? And you're seeing the same situation. You're seeing that minority of that, and that's what's the danger of this minority that's running the disruption, delusional campaign on this, running the show on this and doing that. It's going to be, if we keep following it, it's going to be to all of our peril, I think.
It will be, and I agree with you, Roy. I think just people need to move on now. I mean, let's get justice served, and like I say, I sure hope that these judges, they put the max to these guys. They should all be charged for murder, and they should live out the life sentence on it. They should throw the book at these guys for taking that poor guy's life.
You've got it. I know you're busy and you want to get back to your coverage on Hemet News on all that stuff, so I'll give you about a minute or so to wrap it up. Tell anybody within reason what you want to say, because you're absolutely entertaining, and I love your little wrap-ups.
Oh, my God. I appreciate it, Roy. And I appreciate all the following guys and gals out there, and make sure you do follow us out on Hemet News. That's HemetEYEnews.com. Also subscribe to us on Facebook. And until then, Roy, I'm going to go ahead and get off my chair, and I am off your air.
There you go. That was a great Eddie George of Hemet News with all his crew, Lori, Alex, John, and everybody that goes through the deal on that. We're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about the schools, because we did have a little bit without Tony Thurmond. The state superintendent of public instruction came up a little bit on that, and yesterday addressed the deal and said, about the whole COVID-19 things that Bo Yarborough in the Press Enterprise had an article on there. One, and this is probably, in my reasoning, why Temecula Valley Unified School District is the top-rated or top test-scored district in Riverside County. They said, we are looking, basically giving the state recommendations, the you-know-what finger, and saying we are going to return to our schools to about like they were. We're going to make every effort to return our schools as they were in March before all this madness started, which is exactly the policy I think all school districts in California can do. Because, you go, and, just to get the nuts and bolts of that, but in the state of California, our unified school districts have a lot of autonomy, freedom to do that, make the decisions, and that's what it is. That's why you have school boards and stuff. So, and your schools are supposed to be run locally on that. There are a few things as statewide, but they have a lot of latitude in doing how they were doing. Like you see, the state stuff is just recommendations. It's not mandates in most of these cases. So I applaud Temecula School District, as in our whole country, state, everywhere. We should be getting back to the way it was. Let's press the reset button, like we said, on July 1st, 2020.5. We're going to forget about the first half of the year. We're returning back to not a new normal, just normal, the way things used to be, because they were working out great on the whole deal. So, we're going to have a discussion with that and that about the insane policies or recommendations, or trying to, in my view, shove the new educational model of that, where your kids are going to be 6 foot apart. They can't eat in the cafeteria. They can't have PE on that and anything else. So here is our little rendition on the insane policies of the schools. So, all you parents with the little kiddies out there that are looking forward possibly to send your kids to school.
I'm going to miss them.
Maybe like sometime in the near future of that. Take a look at what's going to happen. We have, and see, run back in the annals of history of all of it, and because it's all on, most of it is on tape.
Yeah.
See what I've said about what they're planning to do, and even specifically, yes, what they have said about the schools and what they're going to do.
How did you know? Wow.
Because
predict my future, please.
Tony Thurmond is the superintendent of public instruction for the state of California. The majority of you, about 60%, no, it was really close. It was very close. What was it, Tom Torkelson? He was backed by the charter schools. He was actually leading it for a while, but Tony Thurmond barely dragged through. This was one very close, but still 50% plus one voted for Tony Thurmond on this deal, and he became superintendent. So it was our closest statewide election, I believe, at least from all that. He got in, so he had an update on what you can expect when we are possibly going to let the little tykes back into school. So here's an ABC7 report coming up on what to expect on the upcoming school year. So here we go.
Get excited, parents.
Step for all California schools. That classroom we're used to, set for an overhaul.
The guidance sets the bar high. Safety first, our top priority.
Unlike the traditional setting, students will have to be spaced 6 feet apart, wear protective masks, and have their temperature taken each morning.
Temperature
to
taken.
widen the elbow room, the State Department of Education is examining multiple scenarios, including a hybrid model.
Meaning that there will be some students who will be on campus for in-class instruction, and that there will be some students who will continue to participate in distance learning.
A new document, Stronger Together, a guidebook for the safe reopening of California's public schools, is offered as a roadmap. It's up to local school districts to navigate instruction based on safety rules. What some schools have already devised?
They're using spaces like the cafeteria for classroom space that they can use to have tables spaced out over 6 feet of distance. They're using spaces like a gymnasium that can also be repurposed.
With input from parents, students may go on a staggered schedule, attending school as little as twice a week, online learning the rest of the week.
Maybe, K2 coming on Monday, Tuesday, to in-person instruction, then Wednesday, Thursday, 4th through 6th grade. Friday, everybody's engaged in distance learning and teachers are engaged in professional learning opportunities.
A key part of all models is the students' access to online learning. LAUSD Superintendent Austin Buettner says the district has made progress.
Every student who needs a tablet or computer and an internet connection now has one, 100%.
Yet other districts still face hurdles.
We've been able to make many commitments available for free Wi-Fi, for donated laptops. We continue to work on those needs.
Many questions are raised by instructors and parents. State leaders say the manual is not a mandate, but a way to make safe plans for reopening.
It may not have been a mandate on the deal, but who controls the purse strings of this? The state of California. I can see the finger tapping on the desk.
My only thing, okay, do whatever, but he breaks it down between kinder, like TK to third, or TK to second. I have currently right now a TK, a first, a second, and a third grader. Next year I'll have second, third, fourth.
Right.
How many days a week am I going to be driving to school to drop off one child?
Well, yeah,
maybe
two.
I'm going to lose a kid.
You are going.
I'm not going to know who's going to school.
Yeah,
Plus, how the hell am I going to go get a freaking job? How am I going to work? How am I going to be a working parent with 2 kids, 1 kid, 3 kids? I don't even know how many kids I have at this point anymore.
Yes. The whole thing is chaotic.
It's confusing.
You ask, how do you figure out? It wasn't, not that you're getting some maybe behind the scenes information on this, but 2, it didn't take a brain surgeon to figure this out. 6-foot social distancing. Well, then that means your classroom sizes, which the average size is about 30, is going to be cut to 15. So they didn't build twice as many facilities in the last 3 months. So it doesn't take a brain surgeon to figure they're going to have to cut the school hours in half just to make this work.
Plus to take a temperature of a child
taking
every
the temperature
single morning.
Mask.
How long is it going to take these students to get dropped off and into school?
Which I asked the question, how do you play football while social distancing? Or any other sporting activity.
And then sneeze guards around their desks?
Yes, of all that stuff. And kids can't go out and play. All the free meals, well, how are you going to distribute? Well, you got to eat them at your desk and whatever or that. Well, you're only going to be there 2 days a week. How are we going to do that? You're going to have people in and out of there twice as much. The traffic cluster foxtrots are going to be even worse. Because like you say, you're going to be driving. So what if all your kids are on, one's on Tuesday and Thursday and every other Friday, and others are on Wednesday and Thursday, and this one's on
or
Tuesday.
Even if they
you're going to be driving, you're going to be constantly driving your kids back and forth or doing that. Like you say, you can't even keep track of them.
It's confusing.
Much less
that's
going to be your life the way they've done it. And like Melissa and Murray pointed out yesterday when we were out on our show, homeschooling was supposed to be so bad. Well, practically 100% of the United States of America for the past 2 or 3 months has been on the homeschooling program.
That's bad.
And so of all that, and it's going to continue in some form, according to Tony Thurman, your superintendent of public instruction
the
in
students
California.
are losing so much.
Yes.
From parents. I mean, I don't knock homeschooling. I was homeschooled at the end of my schooling education, so I'm not knocking it. But for parents that aren't mentally ready to homeschool, the students they're losing so much because parents just don't want to do it. They don't know how to do it. They can't physically do it. It's
yes.
And the kids need that kid-on-kid interaction.
We have set up
they need to learn.
We have set up our society in that where the majority of the families, both parents are working in some point to survive, to afford the ridiculous taxes and cost of living in it. And we got to have I'll think of his name in a second. Back on Richard Ryder, who we've had on this at the cost of living in California and all that, and that's why you're going downhill, because you got to do all this. How many people have moved away and they got a pay raise, or they have had the ability of the mom to be able to stay at home and take care of the kids, and they could live on one income if they moved to Florida, Texas, or Colorado, or wherever of that. This is why it's the whole thing that's killing us, in this whole mentality that they're trying to do. And again, it's not that. Again, Melissa and Murray pointed out. A few of us have been pointing this out, for a long time, and you're seeing the fruition of what happens when you try to distort reality, and that's what they've been trying to do. Now it's all backfiring. We got to get rid of the police. We're going to get rid of the education system and all this and and we're going to just.
I feel like I should go get a horse and a carriage.
Well, that's what they. Well, yes.
I feel like it would be legit.
On top of that, that's what I'm saying, and the outlandish statement, as we did yesterday, that said your single-family home is now a symbol of racism. I mean, there is nothing. The
I don't get it.
Stupidity, the idiocracy that is going on in this has to be countered. Said it much time. You have it would be in my belief, it would be in your own self-interest, your family's future self-interest to get involved, pay more attention to what is going on. Because when it happens like this, or when this stuff comes after the fact is too late, if they start this stuff and do that, it's much, much harder. The deeper you dig yourself into the hole, the much harder it is to dig out of it if you can. And that's the basic choices we are sitting with right now. So, again, I make the appeal to everybody, all in this together, we all in this together as one. We're going to stop the stupid. We're going to fix this stuff once and for all. We're going to get us back to the way we were before all this madness started.
I hope so. I want my old life back. Or at least my kids in school and freedom. That'd be a start. And police department, too, to keep me safe, because I'll never make it on my own. Oh, my God, what the hell's going on with the world? I don't know what to do anymore, Roy. I think moving out of California might be put in my future.
They're doing it in the droves. They're doing it in the droves. And, I mean, this is just going to push more.
Are other states acting like this? Are other states?
Well, again, you seen yesterday in with
the schoolings. Like, I don't see other states being this dramatic.
You like to beat me with the stick, but
It's fun.
What did I tell you? I said the racers are the ones that are going to show you the way out of this. And like it did in North Carolina, and that even when their government went haywire on them, they said screw it. That's what I told. We have put the videos out to tell our public officials, take the lead in this all across the board. Tell Newsom, screw you. We're opening things up. School districts, we're putting our schools back to the way they were. End of story.
Or at least similar. I mean,
Yes.
as close to it as possible. I get
Yes.
they want to keep it safe for the children, let the kids be kids. Like, they spread germs. They're little germy creatures. We all know that when we pop them out of us. Just move on.
Biology 101. You need the
They
virus.
have children out protesting. Put them back in school. Let them learn a little bit.
The virus needs you.
And we need that virus. Do we? I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have said that.
Yes, we do.
Sorry,
And of all the stuff, and that's it is. We need to get back. We really need to get back to sanity.
Because I'm losing my damn mind, and my kids are too.
There we go. We're back on there. Just a little update on that of a speedway of that in North Carolina. The governor, I think, did move to try and close down the speedway, so we'll keep you up to date on that story going on that. He didn't have guts enough to do it while everybody was there, but that's how sneaky politicians are. Sometimes we're gonna be back. We're gonna be joining KMET here in a second on that, and we are going to
30 seconds
do all that. We're going to bring you all the news and views. Cliff Cummings of Toyota San Bernardino will be on. We're going to cover one little snippet on that of something that, again, hiding in plain sight about this whole enchilada. It's all been a big diversion coming on.
All right, here we go.
T1490am.com and download your free phone app today.
IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
Funky slide guitar music that comes on every Friday, Monday through Friday at 5:30 on the Mighty Met KMET 1490. As they join us, as those of you that have heard on our first half hour on IE Newswire Daily, where you can see us on video on Facebook Live or YouTube. Just type in IE Newswire on either one of this, and you'll find us on that, and you'll see our great video. We had Eddie George on of Hemet News. He gave us an update of what's going on in Hemet and got his thoughts on the protests and the COVID and all the other stuff on that. And we're gonna do the we're gonna do that. And this is the false narrative. It started with the COVID on that. This is a doctor with the World Health Organization on that. I can't remember. She's got one. Maria Van Kerkhove, I think is her name. She's going to tell you what happened in this whole COVID-19 situation going on, the distortions of that, and find out if there was really, for the mass amount of people, was there anything to be afraid of? So play the video.
These individuals need to be followed carefully over the course of when they're detected and looking at secondary transmission. We have a number of reports from countries who are doing very detailed contact tracing. They're following asymptomatic cases, they're following contacts, and they're not finding secondary transmission onward. It's very rare. And much of that is not published in the literature. From the papers that are published, there's one that came out from Singapore looking at
There you go. You heard it. Not much danger of transmission. Now, they're trying to say that they're trying to walk it back with some of their other experts of that, because, man, it's really looking bad for every politician that went along with this lockdown, did the whole enchilada on this stuff, and went, oh, this stuff. And I'm trying to find it, but I think there's going to be some studies coming out. Stay tuned for this. It looks like, what if, and I'll just put the hypothesis out there. What if let's say right now in the United States, let's say 100,000 die of COVID-19 or whatever. Let's just use that as a nice round number. Let's say it caused the deaths of 100,000 others who didn't get medical treatment and, loss of economy of that. And then take the age groups of them both on that. And take the hours, days, and years of those. And you're going to find, even though the deaths, and this is why static analysis will kill you 98.7% of the time, you may find that the deaths will be equal. Let's say they are. But the amount of time taken away from those who did not have COVID-19 but suffered the effects of that, the hours and days and years is going to be far longer, because that's going to be a younger age group than those that have passed away on that. So, at best, we will probably be neutral on the stuff of COVID-19 as far as deaths on that versus what they did, what they said they saved lives on this or that. That if they wouldn't have done anything, we're probably going to be neutral on that, because the amount of lives lost due to their actions on COVID-19, the shutting down of this and our medical facilities and everything, are probably going to equal to that. So if let's just say the hypothesis is that evens out. So we shut down our economy. We, put thousands of lives in. Those of them in the secondary category are probably going to have many more years and stuff cut off of their lives than the ones that they claim they saved on the COVID-19. So then what did we go through this whole rendition about? It's kind of the same thing that goes on with the rioting and protesting, in that we're letting a very few minority, in my opinion, dictate or try and set the narrative or try and push an agenda to push us into whatever reason we got. But hopefully, and maybe I'm wrong, and maybe Cliff Cummings of Toyota San Bernardino Subaru and I-10 Toyota in Indio of that can straighten me out on this stuff. But Cliff, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So what do you think of my little rendition there?
Well, I think first off, you've got to look at the underlying problems. And what I found remarkable is that a great number of sworn officers absolutely neglected the safety of the city residents. And I'm talking about Inland Empire. And I saw it on TV and a bunch of other places too. So not good, right? And we've got a lot of conflicting stories about who's naughty, who's nice, who did what. Frankly, I really don't give a damn. What I give a damn about is the fact that people had their lives endangered. And that's not an acceptable answer in any way, shape, or form. So if we've had people endangered, property endangered, private property, which I think that the you can call them what you want. Call them protesters. You want to call them that? Fine, knock yourself out. They have no concept of, because they basically don't really have any. So if you look, and you've got Antifa out there, you've got the various other organizations who are sworn to do damage. You've got Trump, and I want to talk about that for a minute. You've got Trump saying that Antifa now is considered a terrorist organization. And I have to tell you, I've been absolutely swamped the last few days, and I haven't had time to sit there and say, okay, let's say they are that. Let's just say they are a terrorist organization. What exactly does that mean? Well, the first thing that happens is it makes them a national problem. So that brings in the FBI. Intriguing, right? So now the FBI can come in, and they can take a look at these people, and I say people, and I think I'm being a little generous, and they are able to use their particular skills and techniques and resources to keep the city safe. Great. All right, good deal. All right, we've got something going there. So now if we take another look at this and we say to ourselves, what else can happen? Well, domestic terror could, under a very loose interpretation, become an argument to send those. It takes away a great number of their rights in court, and it may put them in a position where they actually do not have the normal rights of a citizen. And let's talk about Gitmo. Maybe it goes there. So there is so much on the table here, and I don't know that that's going to go that way, but I do know that I'm shocked at the lack of response by law enforcement as a whole. And all the excuses, you want to have all the excuses, go for it. Knock yourself out. Have excuses. But when you've got people who are, and then you've got this moron governor allowing this kind of destruction to happen while he was fly fishing in Montana, you've got that going on. I don't understand how that was allowed to happen. I just simply don't understand it. And I don't think I'm stupid. Apparently I must be. I don't understand that. And that's one of the things that I think is going to be answered at some volume over time by an awful lot of smart people. They are going to be all over this. I think, sadly, that a great number of the perpetrators will not be punished. I think they will walk on the deal. That is incredibly sad. But again, I think that is a very realistic possibility, and something that people who care about law and order should be prepared to face, because they will arrest some. I think they just actually didn't bar arrest one the other day. But again, how many is that? Of all the people, and look, these guys are on video. This isn't a surprise. This isn't like, oh gosh, sorry, you didn't know you were watching me. Well, hell yeah, everybody's watching you. So now what? And the now what is part of how I think this country moves forward. What is going to happen? And if there is a hue and cry, we have an election coming up in November. We've got a president who is trying to maintain law and order. We have governors who are absolutely worthless, who are out there doing nothing, maybe fly fishing as an example. So you've got an election, and that's one of the great things about this country. We get a chance to fix the problems. Now, will they? Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, we will absolutely see what the general population of California and other places does when it comes down to November. So so far, the Democrats aren't doing very well, are they? They've lost a considerable amount of ground in special elections. It's not been good for them. I think that the Republicans, frankly, have some problems in a couple of seats in California that people think they've got a chance on. I don't think they do. But that's just me talking. Again, it's going to be intriguing, and it is sad in a lot of ways to have this conversation because, believe me, this is not our best and brightest out there doing the damage that they did, and the shopkeeper and the owners. You start talking about insurance because don't forget, if they get labeled terrorist organizations, Antifa, for instance, your insurance rates go through the roof because they have to charge you. Now you have to pay for terrorism insurance, and that is not cheap. Okay, so you got to look at all the underlying things that are going on here, and it's going to take quite some time to sort all that out.
I agree with you. It's sad what's going on that, and it's even more sadder the small minority that's trying to push this, starting with that I call her that dingy broad, who's the chairman of the city council of Minneapolis, who's got a majority of the council there to not just defund or reform the police department, just to abolish it. And and I agree with you on the stuff that they are going, look at Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, and Nancy Pelosi are all trying to walk that thing back because the latest poll I've seen, only 16% of the people support really abolishing or really, dismantling our police departments on this stuff. So, I mean, that's why I say what's the underlying question to me is, what's the driving force behind, starting with the misinformation on COVID and stuff that for a couple months, and now the whole disinformation campaign are trying to do this. What's your opinion on who's really behind this, or what's their objective?
Well, I mean, a lot of fingers get pointed at Soros. First off, you have youthful exuberance. Okay, you've got kids out there who had no idea what was going on, but it was the thing to do. They got to not go to work. All right, that's fine. That's going to happen in virtually any circumstance at this point. But it is a problem, in my opinion, because you need to be well-versed in the topic you are bitching about if you're going to bitch about it. So that would be number one. Number two, it seems to me that we've got people out there who are absolutely, positively, intentionally doing damage for the sake of doing, call it mayhem. And that obviously is not acceptable. So now you've got to go prosecute them. My fear is that they will not be prosecuted. That is my big fear. In a lot of localities, they are absolutely not going to be prosecuted. And if that's the case, you've just told all those people who've made investments in California, in other states, that, you know what, it's okay for them to come and trash your property and your building, but guess what? We're not going to do squat about it. Now, if that's the case, now what do? You've got lost the trust of an enormous number of people in the communities who create jobs. They're the guys who are creating the jobs. So do we then sit and turn around and say, holy smokes, how do we get around this? Believe me, this is going to go on for a really long time, this argument. I am stunned by the lack of response by a lot of law enforcement agencies. And it is highly disappointing, especially, I've got about, let's see, what have I got in San Bernardino? I've got probably something to the tune of $30 million worth of buildings going up right now, which are going to create a whole bunch of jobs or extend a whole bunch of jobs. And you know what else? Today, I was over at San Bernardino, and I gave every office staff member a really nice bonus for hanging in there through the various and sundry diseases that are alleged, the silliness. And so they did a great job. And so we were out there and we were just taking care of our people, which is what we're supposed to do. So, but again, it is astounding to me that this kind of this kind of mayhem is allowed to occur. And you can point fingers all you want, but I'll tell you what, I'd start pointing at the governor real hard. And he's going to be in an election, and it is not fathomable to me that he can win. When it hits.
Yeah, I agree with that. And what you kind of alluded to that about, businesses and people leaving California on that. Stephanie, even in our earlier segment, said, I've been thinking, is it time to leave California? You're making a big investment, like you said, $30 million worth of buildings going up, new dealerships in San Bernardino.
And that's just the first phase.
Yeah. And
Roy, that's just phase one. I got another probably $40 million going in, not far behind.
And what happens to that if if we get to that point of no return, or they keep this stuff up and they destroy basically the whole economy of California doing this and that, like you said, you're talking about the jobs and opportunity and the new opportunity that's created with what you're doing over there. That could all just go up poof. We've seen how quick this can go up in a puff of smoke real quick with the actions that have been going on lately.
Yeah, we agree, and I think that's one of the things that has the business community extraordinarily concerned. Now, what can they do about it? Well, there's a hell of a lot they can do about it, and it comes down to elections, because elections get funded, and the business community is a big part of that funding mechanism. I think that if you look at some of the insanity that was going on, it strikes me that we're going to have a very contentious series of elections come before us. And you know what? Maybe that's good. Maybe it's time to clean house. I know I've got some friends who are out there working real hard right now, talking about cleaning up a lot of this mess. And I think if I were elected right now, I'd be nervous about my job.
I really hope a lot of them are, especially in California on that. We had Tom Del Beccaro on Friday, and him and Mark Moyser, the attorney that ran for constitutional attorney that's been doing a lot of the lawsuits against Newsom, and him are teaming up. And I think this week they're going to have petitions ready to recall Gavin Newsom on top of that. I think we got your thoughts on that. Maybe it's not the right timing of that. Have you changed your mind on that?
I have, a little bit. Okay, and I'll tell you, a whole lot of the change came as a result of the aftermath of Newsom's handling of the pandemic was horrific, and then the handling of the protests and riots afterward was worse. And so I think that there's a growing sentiment that he's simply not the guy. He's not strong enough for the job. A lot of us knew that going in, but,
right.
That's an election. And I think that he's coming out of this looking terrible. So have I changed my mind? Yes, I've changed my mind that probably it's better. But when you get into a recall situation, it comes down to money. They've got to raise a ton of dough to get the signatures. And you're talking about a lot of volunteers. Great, they work for free. You've got to get 1.4 million in signatures.
Yeah, you about 2 million
signature.
Yeah, I
Okay,
figure
so
you just in round numbers, I'd figure you'd have to have about 4 or 5 million, because my contention is you could probably get 1 million signatures on the volunteer, but you'd probably have to have 1 million in paid signatures, which costs you $3, $4, $5 a shot. So I'm saying you'd have to have with $4 or $5 million, you could pull it. I believe you got a really good odds of pulling it.
I think you do have odds, but then, of course, you have to go through the verification.
Right.
This Secretary of State is going to sit there and drag his feet at slowest possible rate to get any of this stuff done. So you've got that argument that's going to be around. And, of course, that's why, they've got court systems. So I think that there's methods that you can use to expedite some of this. But again, this is not an easy task by any stretch of the imagination. No. So, am I concerned about it? Yeah. Have I changed my mind about it? Yeah, I think they got a better chance than they had a week ago. But on the other hand, who are you going to get to do all this. And a lot of volunteers, and they're great people. They're fantastic. But it's expensive as hell.
Yes.
And you've got to have an organization who is top-notch. And do they have that right now? I don't know.
Yeah,
I like Tom.
I do too. Yeah, if there's somebody I think that can pull it, or can put that together, and I'm curious to see if he can get the horsepower behind that, because like anything else, I think it has a good odds of working if you get enough horsepower and enough forces between the business community and the volunteers to do that up in that. And I think it would, just my kind of my take on it, because we have the November elections, which are probably more important than that, but maybe that will galvanize and focus people in on that if you get that. And then, because the recall election would probably be after the November election, so that
There's no doubt it will.
Yeah, that might be like
will.
a galvanizing force to, like, once you get that and you get everybody engaged and fired up, and we're ready to go. It all needs to be talked about, but I think if it's put together right, I think it could all work in conjunction.
I think it is a tough deal to get done. I think that one, it's tough because I think political consultants, right, you got to have them. So I think that there are a group of them who are going to argue that it is more important to win the general election, and rather than kind of spend some of your treasure on the recall, which may or may not work, you've got a really good chance of keeping some very, very good people in office or electing them to office. And that's one of the arguments I think is going to be at the forefront of this whole deal, is are we better off doing A or B? Well, honest to God, that is one hell of a question. And I think you're going to have more ideological people tend to say, we got to get this guy. And I think the more pragmatic politicians are going to advise that, okay, we got to get him this way, though. So it's a tough one. It really is a tough one. But we all, I think, agree, regardless of any element here, is that he's a bad guy and that he is not good for this state. And he's put this state at risk, and he's put people's lives and livelihoods in danger. And that this is not the person you want when you're, I always use this. One day, a long time ago, I'll tell you a story. A friend of mine came to me and said, I'm opening up a new agency, a new ad agency. Will you back me? This is in D.C. And I said, Jesus, this is a tough one, because we had a long-standing relationship with another group. And he said, will you back me? I'm splitting off. I want to do this. And I said, okay, let me talk to you, some of your guys. So the next guy comes in, one of his future employees, and says, hey, I'm going with Dave and with Jerry. I said, well, how did you make the decision that you were going to go with Dave and Jerry? And he said, well, it was really easy. I lost my job as a heavy equipment store manager, like a yard that rented it out. Said I was the last guy to put the lock on the door, and I was sitting in a bar in South Baltimore. Okay, and I'm sitting there, and I'm drinking. Big guy. This guy's a big guy, man. I'm drinking, and I'm looking, and then all of a sudden, in walk these other two dudes. Okay, well, they start drinking. And then the next thing you know, there's guys at one end of the bar and guys at the other end of the bar, and they're going to go. We know they're going to go. And I said, well, what'd you do? He said, well, I sat and I looked left and I looked right, and I said, you know what? I'm on their team in the bar fight. So really, the voters, right, and he went with the guys, and they hired him.
Right.
He was out of work for one day. They hired him, and they became wildly successful, incredibly. I was lucky enough to be part of that whole excursion as they came forward. So, end of the day, it's in this case, whose team do you want to be on in the bar fight? I think that right now, the governor's got a real problem if he needs allies. I just don't think they're there for him. And honestly, I know I'm not. There's no way.
Yes, and I'm not either. Boy, these
I've never been. So
yeah,
it's not news. I mean, I've never been with that guy.
That's especially from my standpoint, that's no news flash. Man, these segments fly by real fast. Thanks for being on for today. We'll do it again next week on that. Is that a deal?
Pleasure. Looking forward to it. Well, you know what? We're going to know a lot more in a week, aren't we, about what's going on?
Yes, I think yes.
Yes, and I think I'll have more information for you in a week that's really intriguing too from another side of it. So let's talk. We'll talk. You guys have a great show, and I'm going to take my wife to dinner.
You got it. Have fun.
Okay.
You got it. That's it, man. We had a jam-packed show. Eddie George, Stephanie came in. We had Cliff Cummings on. Man, you don't get this. You don't get this type of information or perspective anywhere else, not only in the Inland Empire, but California, the United States of the world. That's why you should be listening to IE Newswire Daily. We'll be back tomorrow on Wicked Wednesday with Stephanie. And as we do, be back here in 23 hours. Till then, see ya.